Welcome to Deep Treks, the Bible study and studies that we get into as we dig deeper into the Bible together. Today is Thursday, and we are looking at Jesus caring for the small, personal, and the big things in life as we continue to look at Jesus the healer this week on this Thursday. We're going to be in Mark chapter 5, if you want to turn over there, down in verse 21. Mark chapter 5, verse 21. And this passage, Jesus, again, is out teaching. He's out telling the people what they need to hear, and he's encouraging them. And along comes Jairus. Now, Jairus is the leader of the synagogue in the town where he's out teaching and preaching. He's heard of Jesus. He hears of the power of Jesus and all these things that are going on. And so he comes to Jesus and calls him by name, and he reaches out to him and says, "Can you come and heal my daughter?" We see that at the beginning of this passage. And then it tells us down in verse 24, he went with him, and a great crowd followed him and thronged about him. There was a woman who had the discharge of blood that had been going on for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard reports about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. She said to herself, "If I just touch even this man's garments, I will be made well." And immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the disease. Jesus, perceiving of what had happened and the power that had went out from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, "Who touched my garments?" And his disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing against you, and you ask, 'Who touched you?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came in fear, trembling, and fell down before him and said everything that had happened. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease." While he was still speaking, there came those from the ruler's house who said to Jairus, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble this man any further?" But hearing this, Jesus said to the ruler, "Do not fear, only believe." And he allowed no one to follow him except for Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. They came up to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and Jesus saw the commotion going on of all the people weeping and wailing loudly. And when he entered the house, he said to them, "Why are you making such a commotion? The child's not dead, just sleeping." And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside, took the child's father and mother, and those who were with him, and they went to where the child was. Taking her by the hand, he said to her, "Talitha cumi," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years old, and they were immediately overcome with amazement. And he strictly charged them not to tell anyone about this, and told them to give her something to eat. So Jesus does two healings in this passage. And I really want us to see this compassionate Christ who has come to heal us and realize that he's showing care for both the small, or what we might consider private small needs, and also some pretty big things. He brings somebody back to life. But before he does, a woman reaches out in faith and touches his garment. And as she touches him, she believes that's all she has to do to be healed. And he turns around and tells her, because of her faith, she's been healed. She believes in the power of Christ so much that all she has to do is touch him. What an awesome thing. Now, we have to realize this issue of blood. We don't know exactly. It could be, something very personal. But there is this bleeding that will not stop. And you can't go to worship in this time if you have an issue of blood, of any kind of bleeding, because it defiles the body, makes you dirty, possibly. And the reason for this has more to do with science than what we realize. A lot of people look back at this and say, well, people were just judgmental back then. No, because disease is often spread through blood. So anybody that was bleeding, if you got hurt or whatever, you weren't supposed to go to worship because it would spread disease. until things were healed up. Now, she's been fighting this for 12 years. She's went to doctors. She's went to all kinds of healers. She's been everywhere she could, and nothing's working. She spent all her money. And Jesus doesn't scold her for reaching out in faith, but he blesses her, saying, your faith has made you well. And see, that's the thing. It may not have seemed like a big deal to anybody else, but it was a big deal to her. Even the small things in our life may not be a big deal, and we may say we don't want to come to Jesus with this little thing. It's not big enough. I mean, we're not talking about raising somebody to life. It's my little need. And yet Jesus says, your faith made you well to this woman. And he cares about your needs. He cares about my needs, no matter how small they are. Additionally, he goes and they're told that this girl has died, and he says, don't worry about it. Just believe. And when they get there, they're doing the usual thing they do as soon as someone dies in this area. You know, they have this big commotion. They have all weepers. You know, in some places, if they didn't have enough people to cry, they'd actually pay people to come and weep at someone's tomb. So they buried them, you know, within a day, because it's not modern times. And Jesus says the girl will rise. Basically, that's what he's saying. She's not dead. She's asleep. She will rise again. And they're laughing at him because they know she's dead. She hasn't breathed. You know, no breath has went in her. And it's not just moments here. They met them on the road. They had to go from out on the road into the house, into the place where everybody was weeping, through all this crowd, and then into this girl. You know, if somebody thinks that she just passed out, it's not somebody who just passed out. She's dead. She's been dead for a little while. All this time, she probably died while they were on the way, as it said. And so the reality is, Jesus is showing something, but he doesn't invite the crowd in for this one. He brings Jairus, his wife, and 3 of the disciples, his inner core, and he raises this girl back to life. He can have power over life itself. This is a new thing for the disciples. This is a new thing for everybody else. They've seen people heal people. God had sent healers before. People would go to them. They sought their healing. And so God would reach out to them. So Jesus is bringing this girl back to life. And this is an important thing because it shows his power, not just to heal as all these other healers in the area could do, but he now has power over life itself. No one else is bringing people back to life. Now, this is a fulfillment of the Old Testament because we know Elisha raised someone back to life. Elijah raised somebody back to life in the Old Testament. And so it's showing he's got this same power. Not every prophet has this power. In fact, it's so rare, it's only really mentioned once in the Bible before this. This is a big deal because it tells people he is the Christ. And that's why he's doing it. He's letting his power be known. And so, for us today, it doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter how big, we can turn to Christ and we can leave our needs with him. I hope you can do that today, and I hope you will. God bless you on the journey. Blessings, and take those blessings and take them and bless others on this trek of life.
That's today's Devo on Deep Treks. No matter how deep the questions or dark the doubts, there's always a path forward. Reach out at deeptreks.com with prayer needs or topics you'd like us to explore. Keep trekking. Renewal is never far away. Be blessed on the journey and bless others along the way.